They may get deep, just go with it. So we're going to start off with Grace Kim.
One of the many co-founders of Undocumented Students and Allies at UCLA. Shout out to my fellow co-founders here. Undocumented at UCLA has helped increase funding for undocumented health students. We've helped pass California legislation that protects undocumented students in medical school admissions. And we've worked with medical students across California, like many of you, shout out to UCSF especially, to fight for immigration reform following the termination of DACA. As someone who has never been undocumented, I'm frequently asked why I care so much. This question is always difficult for me to answer because the answer seems so obvious, as it probably is for so many of you. I think about Ingrid, the undocumented single mother of a student I taught who was my inspiration for leaving teaching to pursue medicine. Fears of deportation and mistrust of doctors who didn't speak Spanish led her to a sudden unexpected death due to uncontrolled hypertension at the age of 34, leaving her 16-year-old son orphaned and in my care. As physicians in training, we cannot stand by idly as historical injustices that continue to be modern-day injustices literally kill people and tear apart hardworking families. I think about my classmate Marcella, who has tirelessly spoken out for herself and other undocumented students, all while balancing the rigors of clinical rotations and the anxiety of an uncertain future. As friends, we cannot stand by idly as the people who bring so much joy, solace, and inspiration to our lives are persecuted. I think about the family I saw in clinic last year who had just fled cartel violence in Mexico, only to come to a country where the rhetoric had become so publicly hateful that I could only mumble in a shame, "Welcome to America." As Americans, we cannot stand by idly as the core values of freedom, opportunity, and equality for all that our immigrant ancestors fought for are threatened. This is our work as allies, to show others who don't see how they are affected why this matters so much, to amplify the voices of those who cannot speak or will not be listened to. As a classmate once said, solidarity is helping others to bear a burden that they have no choice in bearing themselves. So I challenge you to continue fighting for our undocumented colleagues, friends, family members, and patients. Even when you are exhausted, like right now, when that exam is looming, and you feel like you don't know what to do, I challenge you to not stand by idly and to continue fighting. They say there is power in numbers, and when I look out at this incredibly talented and beautiful and driven audience, I am inspired by our collective power. This week alone, many of you have helped the California Coalition of Undocumented collect almost 700 signatures, California medical students calling on our needs to publicly and powerfully support our undocumented colleagues. You have coordinated with your universities to cover this rally on their official social media outlets, reaching even broader audiences. And today, you have visited 26 senators and representatives and shared so many powerful stories and really bared yourselves, your genuine selves, advocating for the people who need it most right now. Together, we have the potential to make revolutionary change, together in solidarity. So what do we want? When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Clean Dream Act!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Clean Dream Act!
When do we want it?
Now!
Thank you. All right, next I'd like to welcome my colleague and classmate, Emmanuel Cordova.
I'm also on the sleep deprivation train, so please bear with me. Can you guys hear me? All right. I speak really soft, so I'm just going to speak directly to the microphone. My name is Emmanuel Cordova, and I'm a first-year medical student. Oh, like this? Oh, can you guys hear me well? Yeah. All right. So my name is Emmanuel Cordova, and I'm a first-year medical student at the Data McGuffin School of Medicine. So as you guys know, the recent repeal of DACA, I just wanted to share a little bit about myself. So over the past 20 years, I, like many of the people here, lived in the shadows. I felt the fear, the worry, the stress, the anxiety, and the pain that comes with being an undocumented immigrant. So when I was 4 years old, my mother, who was facing domestic abuse on a daily basis by my dad, and who was also facing poverty, one day decided that she wanted to provide us with a better life. With just enough money, she had to make a really painful choice. She had to only choose 2 of her youngest kids to immigrate across to the United States in order to provide them with a better life, and basically leaving behind. My single mother had to endure 12-hour shifts, and we barely had enough to eat, and we barely made minimum wage. Even though I didn't see her a lot, and despite this harsh reality, my family and I were thankful to have each other, because at the very least we were free from the violence in Mexico. We could all be deported, we could all be removed from the country that gave us so much opportunity, but even the fear of deportation pales in comparison to not having health care, or the thought of losing somebody just because they don't have health insurance. By the time I was 10, I was forced to come to terms with the dysfunctional immigration and healthcare system. Through this realization, I became motivated. I wanted to become a doctor that would break down these barriers, a doctor that would advance culturally tailored care, and a doctor that would help immigrant and underserved families like my own. Near-death experience. We rushed to a local emergency room at a local public hospital that was almost an hour away. And I remember my mom was just in pain the entire time, and we were forced to go to that hospital because that was the only public hospital that could treat her. When I got there, I was shocked. I saw a high volume of patients in the emergency room, all of them similar to myself, people of color, people who are uninsured, and people who are undocumented. And my own mother had to withstand hours of pain before she finally got seen by a physician. And when she did get and her physicians, because there was nobody else who could speak Spanish. And at that moment I realized that I wanted to be on the other side. I wanted to have that white coat. I wanted to advocate for people like my mom and not have to rely on a kid who shouldn't have to worry about his mom's health. Despite wanting to help others as a doctor, I knew that I would have many barriers in accessing higher education. I started off at the University of Illinois in Chicago, where I was being awarded merit-based scholarships. And I was doing well, but eventually, after my second year, I was made aware that these scholarships were actually being taken away. And remember how I told you guys I was a nerd? It really devastated me, because this is what I had worked for my entire life. However, I would not give up. I would not dishonor all my mom's sacrifices, all my family's sacrifices, just to not get an education. And later, with guidance from incredible counselors and just being involved in the immigrant youth movement, I learned that there were these amazing schools that actually offered financial aid. And eventually, I was able to receive full funding from the University of Pennsylvania. And honestly, it was the most incredible experience seeing the audience and seeing my family cry and earning a degree from the first university in this country. Since college, my life has completely changed. I was able to marry my high school sweetheart, later apply to adjust my status, and I finally achieved my dream of being a medical student. But while I may no longer be undocumented or have DACA, I will continue to fight for people like my brothers, my family, my community, and in the future as a doctor that will advocate for equitable health care regardless of one's immigration status. I will not let my undocumented family fall, and I will not stand by the sidelines, because we all belong here. We are here to stay. Up next is Cesar. He's an MDP student from the Church School of Medicine from Chicago. Give him a big round of applause.
Okay, so can you hear me? Okay, so just starting off, a little bit about myself. I came here when I was 10, and my family settled in a not very good neighborhood. I grew up, surrounded by gang members, by meth dealers, but really the worst part of all of that was having Border Patrol always coming to our home and raiding our neighborhood, surrounding our trailers, and just breaking families apart. And growing up, my entire childhood was based around a reality where I wanted to escape my life by adjusting my status. I really thought that things would change if I could just get that social security number. And the first real chance that I had about that was in 2010 when Congress voted on the DREAM Act. And I'm sure many of you remember that, how it didn't pass. And what happened back then, it felt like what we were just a little ember that it burned really bright and then was gone, and people forgot about us. And all I could do back then was sit in my room and cry, not wanting my family to see how hopeless I felt. But the thing is that I don't feel like that at all. Even with DACA being taken away, this is nothing compared to what we went through. And all that I can feel now is hope and an urge to keep fighting. And it's just not something that I feel, it's what I see in our community, in our allies, in the undocumented students, and just in everyone. And my gut really tells me that we're going to be alright as long as we keep fighting, because we do have a real shot at getting legislation passed. And even beyond that, just looking at how much we were able to accomplish with DACA, which was never meant to be more than a band-aid. I mean, look at us now, what a difference it makes. And just the idea that we can get the DREAM Act passed, it fills me with hope to look at our reality 5 years from now and think about how much change we're going to bring and how much our community is going to benefit. So thank you so much for being here, and please keep fighting with us.
That thing is really loud. Wow. So, hello everybody. How are y'all doing right now? My name is New. I'm a 4th year, 5th year UCSF medical student. UCSF is here representing, along with all of you. I want to share a little bit about my thoughts on how we got here today. So last year, I had the privilege of caring for a young man as a medical student at the San Francisco General Hospital. I remember David, a 15-year-old teenager, and his timid demeanor as he walked through the doors into our urgent care clinic. He wanted to get help for his trouble breathing. He had just arrived in the U.S. 7 weeks prior on the back of a cargo train, escaping from violence in Guatemala, to reunite with his brother and his sister. As I asked him to take long, deep breaths, I placed my metal stethoscope gently on his upper back, first on the left, then on the right, and back and forth as I glided down. I made sure I listened to all of his posterior lung fields, mild expiratory wheezes, and poor air movement on auscultation bilaterally. I remember thinking to myself, before promptly getting him on the appropriate treatment for an asthma exacerbation and admitted him into the hospital. After a while, when I finally mustered up the courage to blurt out, "Yo también soy indocumentado." I am undocumented too. I remember the confusion in his eyes. It was half filled with amusement, probably from thinking that I was playing some sort of cruel joke, but also half filled with disbelief, perhaps, that someone without legal status, someone just like him, could be his doctor, could be anything but a patient. He slowly worked up a grin, and I smiled too, hopeful to see him opening up. Later that night, I found myself not only counseling him about how to prevent future asthma attacks, but also about how not only him, but his brother, his sister next to him, could all enroll in school, attend college, pursue whatever aspirations they had. As an undocumented immigrant myself, I knew exactly what was going through David's mind in his most vulnerable moments. Hesitations about seeking health care without papers, amongst the confusion of barely speaking English. I had these thoughts too when I helped my mom navigate through an urgent surgery she needed in my junior year of high school. Attempting to navigate those insurance policies and the cultural linguistic barriers were some of the reasons why I'm pursuing a career in medicine myself. But you see, I wasn't always here. In 1999, I moved from Thailand to my family after the historic economic crash in Southeast Asia. I grew up feeling isolated and afraid of the constant threat of deportation. It wasn't until my sophomore year of college, when I met other undocumented folks for the first time, that I began to reframe what being undocumented could mean. On a beautiful sunny day on a rooftop in Lake Merritt, Oakland, I remember looking around to see other scholarship recipients and their family members in attendance. I leaned over to whisper to my family, "Are they all undocumented too?" As our journeys and families were celebrated that day, I saw that being undocumented could be filled with joy and support, rather than shame and stigma. I had experienced community for the first time. And later that year, in 2010, when the DREAM Act came up for a vote, I found myself at a crossroads. Do I keep going to class every day and just hope that things will change? What was my role in this movement? These were the questions I had been asking myself ever since I'd say at the scholarship ceremony. I thought of the community I found that day. I thought of my parents who never gave up, and I remember what was at stake. I decided to get involved, to do all that I could to change the broken immigration system. I held phone banks on campus, I testified in the state capitol, and in California we had a whole bunch of laws, including the Trust Act, to limit police collaboration with ICE, along with the California DREAM Act that allows for in-state financial aid. That gives me hope. And on September 5th, 2017, the Trump administration announced the end of DACA. With DACA, so many of us were able to get driver's licenses, to work and live without the fear of deportation. I was able to matriculate into med school. And now without DACA, I, along with almost 100 undocumented medical students, will lose the ability to complete our training, the ability to heal our communities. I, along with over thousands of health professional students who are undocumented, will lose that ability. Without DACA, millions of families will also be torn apart. And that is why, several weeks ago, I decided to join 5 undocumented folks in suing the Trump administration for their mistake of ending DACA. I decided to stand up and fight back. We may not all have been undocumented, but we all have faced injustice and have had unfavorable cards dealt to us, our friends, and our communities. And instead of giving up and running away, we take no for an answer. And we can exercise our agency to make a difference. This is why you are all here today, is it not? Look around you. Look around us. There's people power here. We have people power. Today, we're here to go even beyond DACA. And all of us here went across all these congressional visits to tell our congressional members that it's not enough to just defend DACA, but to pass the DREAM Act and further legislation that will help all of our undocumented community members. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, for traveling across the country, for coming here together, because this right here is showing us that we have power, and together we can make a difference. So thank you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No? No? Yes? Yes? Okay, I'm gonna yell then. My name is Oksana. I'm from UC Airlines. And I can tell you how proud I am of each one of you and how accomplished I feel to talk to a crowd that gets me in what I'm going to say. I don't have to convince anyone of the deeply felt aspects of the injustices that a lot of us have faced. I don't have to convince anyone here. We worked hard this afternoon to convince some of those people in those offices. Some of them are completely clueless, and I'm talking here to a crowd that gets each one of the each one of the words that each one of us here has to say. I'm originally from Colombia and came here when I was 17. My family and I came on asylum, pretty much escaping violence from Colombia and Nicaragua, and it was very abrupt, pretty much leaving everything behind, and medical school for me because I had already started it in Colombia. So it's been a very long journey with starting community college, starting all over again here, and fortunately it's been a journey accompanied by people like you, which has made it very, very priceless. And one thing that happened when we didn't have Affordable Care Act was that my mom was very sick with endometriosis, and for those of you who might not know, is she had a very, very heavy bleeding that was at one point risking her life, jeopardizing her life, and was also jeopardizing the risk of cancer, ovarian cancer. And she was discovered several tumors in her uterus, in her ovaries, and we didn't have access to anything here in the U.S. We had already saved social injustice to get here to a point where we couldn't even be seen by a doctor because it would be $3,000-$4,000 of an emergency room visit. At this point, and because it became an emergency, my mom had to travel out, going back, jeopardize her safety again, going back to Nicaragua to get a major surgery, all alone on her own, away from all of us. So her just trying to recover, us here praying that she could come back alive. And one of the very, very happy moments was seeing her come to the airport again and alive after she went through a very dangerous procedure in talking to the surgeons, in talking to the people who saw her. And this is a story of someone who had the privilege of going out to get care. How many millions of people can
Here to stay! 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 Here to stay!
I came here with words that are not mine. They are from our National Policy Director, Adali. Say what? LMSA Co-West Director, thank you. She was afraid she was going to cry, and I don't blame you. So I'm here today on her request to share her poem. I was 6 years old when ICE took him away. Discovered a few months past his stay. A deportation, one we couldn't resist. A moving infraction for which white men get a slap on the wrist. Confused and afraid, was there something I could do? If they took my dad, could they take my mom too? The pain and loss I felt never went away. Even 20 years later, I still feel the dismay. He watched through a screen as I walked down the aisle, still trying to make every moment worthwhile. for the abstract construct of borders kept us apart, void of the moments taken for granted by our white counterparts. The worst part about it is as he grows old, the health issues start to unfold. Hard enough to manage family illness on the same side. Imagine the burden of doing so with a country divide. Mental, physical, health disparities and addictions, all a result of selfish political decisions made by cowards in ivory towers, targeted to hurt those that are poorer and sicker, feeling unstable when rights are stripped in a flicker. Despite all this, she checks her privilege at the door. She's a citizen by birth. She's right to the core. She stands here with you, united, but not all of us secure, that we can all accomplish the career we worked hard to produce. I promise you, my hermanics, to use my privilege, my body, my voice, to fight for communities that have little choice, to fight for undocumented students, parents, and families, because love has no borders.
About. Some of us happen to be born on the quote-unquote right side of the Rio Grande. For those of us that were, let's use our privilege to advocate for those who weren't. To advocate for those whose voices have been silenced, who have not had power in this country, and have been systematically abused for decades. So, at this point, we're going to take a little walk. We're going to do some chanting. Let's hope you stay excited. Woo!